call the Thursday, June 29th, 2023, meeting of the Cumberland Planning Board to order. Roll call. Ms. Roshich is absent. Mr. McDonald. Mr. Butler.
Here.
Mr. Scown is absent. Mr. Bush. Here. Ms. Reese. Mrs. D'Ambrosia. Here. Mr. Costa, I'm not sure yet, and the chair is present. Before we begin, we're going to move a couple of things around, if it's okay with the board. We're going to move the director's report to the end. And for expediency purposes, we're going to move items 8 and 9 up front, because those are continuances. Okay? But before I continue, I just have to make a notice here. This meeting is also being held virtually on the Zoom platform. If you have an interest in an item on the agenda, we will turn on your audio and promote you to a panelist at that as the time is called. If you would like to comment, ask a question, please raise your hand by clicking on the button labeled Raise Hand when the chairman opens the floor for public comment. Thank you. Okay. So, next item will be the approval of the planning board minutes of May 25th, 2023. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? And if there are none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Ms. Reese. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Question. Did you just continue items 8 and 9?
8 and 9, what we're going to do, it was a request by Mr. Partington if we could move those two items up because they are continuances.
So they haven't been officially continued?
Not yet.
Not yet. That's why we're going to bring it up. So I'm going to call item 8, public meeting, development plan review, project name J.J. Duffy Funeral Home, applicant owner, Menden Holdings, LLC, address 757 Menden Road, plat 16, lot 893. The applicant requests development plan review approval to construct a crematorium. This item was continued from the May 30, 2023 meeting. Mr. Partington.
Thank you, Mr. Kutu. Scott Partington for the Menden, I think it's Menden Holdings LLC, I believe is the ownership entity. Again, as you are well aware, the situation has been ongoing, evolving or devolving, depending on your perspective, I guess. But fortunately, through the efforts of Mr. Stevens and also from the Bernados, my clients, I think literally on maybe the half-yard line, there was an exchange of some plans for the placement of an additional 13 trees with species identified. That went back and forth, and Mr. Stevens just sent another proposal as another compromise, split down the middle, one of the requests that the clients had. So I will discuss that with them as soon as possible in hopes of, again, moving this forward. I thought that Mr. Stevens' proposal was fair that he sent back, so I'm going to discuss it with the Bernados as soon as physically possible. So I'm just, with asking for the continuance in hopes that well before we get there, that it'll be resolved.
Do you have any questions? Mr. McDonald?
Mr. Stevens, just for the record, not just for this one, but for the storage units, the clock is not an issue, is that correct? The timing of the application?
From my end, if there's any kind of concern about that, obviously I would waive any.
With regard to the Bernardo application, that's development plan review, that does not have a time clock.
Okay.
With regard to Storage USA, if Mr. Partington is stating that he acquiesces to the time period within which you must make a decision, then you're okay. I would just probably ask that he say at least until the next meeting, if that's, Glenn, I mean, I don't know what the timeline is, but if it probably is up against a deadline.
Yeah, and I'll state unequivocally for the record, Mr. McDonald, that will not be something that Storage Rentals of America would raise as as an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we continue this item to the regularly scheduled meeting in July.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Bush. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Against? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 9, public informational meeting, Major Land Development Master Plan, project name Storage Rentals of America, owner SROA 95 Industrial RI LLC. Applicant Kimley Horn and Associates, location 90 Industrial Drive, Assessors Plat 23, Lot 184. There's a zoning ordinance amendment request and Major Land Development Master Plan request. Mr. Partington.
Mr. Kutu, thank you. Again, Scott Partington for the applicant. As again, this matter, as Mr. McDonald has noted, has been in the queue for quite a while. So I had a discussion with the client this morning, and we are asking for the July meeting. However, that I believe that at that point, that if there's nothing, because we still haven't submitted an ordinance for the town council's consideration with respect to the question about, about the one-story versus the height requirement situation in the zoning ordinance. So at that point, I would think that either, I know there's a new plan being discussed, hopefully, not just a change in the facade of the building or anything, a substantive change is in the works right now. If it's not completed by July, I suggested that they withdraw at that point and start over. I mean, I don't think it's fair to keep it on the agenda for anybody, for the neighbors, for you, for anybody. So I would ask for one last continuance to the July meeting with the understanding that at that point, there would just be, would just start from square one at that point.
Board have any questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we continue this item to the regularly scheduled meeting in July.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Reese. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The
Thank
ayes
you.
have
Thank
it.
you again.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Partington. Okay, moving back up to request for master plan, comprehensive permit extension, applicant, owner, J-Ro Orleano. I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Location 910 Mendon Road, Assessors Plat 34, Lot 114. The applicant requests a one-year extension of combined master preliminary comprehensive permit approval for good cause. Mr. Partington?
Yeah, I believe that's as a matter of right, isn't it? I believe the first year extension. I mean, I
don't know the comp permit. I mean, I can look it up, but I'm sure you have a good reason.
yeah, well, as a matter of fact, I feel real bad for this gentleman because he, actually, it all comes down to, he's been chasing his engineer. He finally came in to see me this week. He's just getting nowhere. Mr. Modica had suggested some reasonable changes to the plan ages ago in an email. And unfortunately, this poor guy just hasn't been able to get anyone to do it. So I hopefully I'm going to be able to help him light a fire under who's ever supposed to be doing that plan at this point. And also, in the interest of trying to keep, ahead of the game, what I did was I contacted Rhode Island Housing because we have affordable component here. I'm going to give them a copy of the preliminary plan to start monitoring contracts and also to review the lease ahead of time. They may be tweaking that, they said. So again, so that we don't waste any more time after that, I'm going to try to get the ball rolling ahead of time. And so I'm looking for my extension again with a desire to get it rented and done well before an additional year. But
Questions? Anyone on the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant the one-year extension of the comprehensive permit.
Motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Bush. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Partington. Item number 5, request for preliminary plan extension. Project name Berkeley Properties, FedEx Warehouse, owner applicant Dean Leasing Corporation, locations 60 and 70 Industrial Road, Assessors Plat 24, lots 289, 296, and 331.
Thank you.
Partington.
Thank you, Scott Partington for the applicants. Again, the board has been extremely indulgent and considerate in extensions in this matter. And I believe, as I stated at the last meeting, I think the last continuance or the last extension, that FedEx is gone. Kind of to the surprise of the owners. They really didn't see it coming, but they're gone and they've relocated. The property is under purchase and sale by a national freight company. We are today I got my third extension on the PNS. 90% of the due diligence has been completed. We have a slight issue on the western boundary of like a few hundred square feet survey difference that we're just getting straightened out now. I received a new description yesterday, as a matter of fact, from Insight. And so there's going to be corrective deed presented to their title company just to make sure. It's not of great importance to them, but it is obviously something they want to straighten out before they consummate any purchase. So I talked to counsel for the buyers, and again, I'm not sure what they're going to do as far as, with the preliminary plan. Obviously, if they make any major changes, they got to start back at square one. So and I've kind of tried to get that to try to help them along in that respect, but it's a very large place and there's very, compartmentalized corporate America. And so I really haven't been to get much of a feedback. So what I'm looking to do is, I'm really looking at the board's pleasure or what they would think. I mean, I'm hoping that the closing can be consummated by August. I can't see why it wouldn't be, barring some unforeseen consequence or circumstance, that it wouldn't be. Maybe 6 months, and if they want to come back at that point, once they're in, and they want to come back to you either for an extension based on no changes to the preliminary or minor changes to the preliminary, or otherwise they start over.
Mr. McDonald?
I'm not opposed in principle to granting this, but opposed to Mr. Stevens and or Mrs. Salvatore. We're allowed to give two, as I understand it, and this is a request for a third. I don't know how to phrase this exactly, but is the board, if it grants this, is it in any way compromising in the future, this concept of being restricted to just two extensions?
No, Mr. Partington has this generous habit of trying to limit his extensions. I'm not sure if he did that on this one, but he often asks for less than what he's entitled to. So I don't know when this was granted and where in the timing you are. But to answer your question directly, the first 2-year by right extensions. Right? You've got 2 years of vesting, then you've got 2 1-year by right extensions. Then after that, the board may further extend for good cause.
Okay.
And that's, kind of a subjective term. So if you feel that he has good cause, and if he's outside of those by right extensions, again, I don't know if he is, because like I said, he has the respectful, I guess, habit of asking for less than what he's entitled to, then it's a good cause standard.
Yeah, and I thank you, Ms. Salvatore. That's an accurate, that's the way that the rules read, that I understand it. If I'm not mistaken, my last request was, it's in the letter, and I have been keeping track of it. And again, I limit it because, it's just that I want the board, I think it's incumbent upon us to come to the board as often as possible with things out there like this to make sure that that it's progressing at a reasonable rate, and that that there has to be some level of respect for the process, and that that we're moving. And I know it's been very frustrating to the deans that, because and again, I remember having, Mr. McDonald and I had this discussion, going back maybe a year ago, or on the record, about how there was talk about, the lease and whatnot, and they just couldn't get a response. And they kept trying, and it went on, and then all of a sudden they get the notice, we're gone. So fortunately, they have a buyer to come in, so I want to obviously protect the client in that respect, and I've notified buyer that, look, there's this preliminary plan out there, so see to it, because if you're going to change it, you better get on it. So, and again, I think the cause is good in that you've got, an industrial park with a flourishing business for years been out there, and you're going to replace that with an equally, stature-wise company, and keep everything moving out there, keeping the tax base. And so, certainly the efforts have been made. Even now, even with respect to this sale itself, we had issues with, there were these old cell tower leases that we had to go through the title companies to clear those out. And then we had, and now this other, I think it's 800 square feet now that's at issue on the border, on the western border. So we're cleaning that up. It's been, every week I've been doing something with respect to this to get it done. Everyone's very anxious to close this on both sides.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Butler.
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plan extension through the regularly scheduled January 2024 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? I think I saw Mr. Bush raise his hand, so second Mr. Bush. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much, and everyone have a great 4th.
You too. Thank you, Mr. Partington.
For the record, the original approval was in, what month? July of 2017, so he is outside of the by right extensions. But I would also suggest that when you see something like this, you look at what the regulations were in effect at the time, same. Comprehensive plan, same. The neighborhood itself hasn't really changed. So if he were to come back and give you the exact same presentation, you'd be obligated to grant it. So that's why these extensions are sometimes necessary.
Thank you. Okay, item number 6, request for bond reduction, owner applicant Terrapin, project name Hidden Meadows 2, location Quinn Way, Kelsey Eden Way, and Lynn Court. The applicant is requesting a reduction of the bond. Mr. Modica?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to defer to the attorney who's on Zoom, Mr. Bo Akers.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board.
Turn your audio on, please.
Yes, it is on. Audio is on and video is on. Testing.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. My name is Bo Akers. I'm here on behalf of Terrapin Development. This is a request for a bond reduction for Hidden Meadows 2. I believe we had sent in a letter and the amount to be reduced. The request is a reduction by $350,929. And we provided the estimates for the remaining items as well in that Excel spreadsheet, for lack of better words.
Mr. Modica, we have a memorandum also from James Ento, our assistant engineer.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. He recommended less of a bond reduction than was requested based on the work that's been completed to date.
Board have any questions, Mr. McDonald?
I just want to make an observation. In 12 years, I've never seen such a discrepancy between a request and from an applicant and a recommendation from town officials.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve a bond reduction in the amount of $147,189.70 based on the recommendation of Mr. Entow's memo of June 20th, 2023.
Have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Oh, second by Mr. McDonald. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item number 7, public meeting, development
thank you.
plan review. Owner applicant, the town of Cumberland. Project name, New Community Center and offices at Diamond Hill Park, location 4097 Diamond Hill Road, assessors plat 59, lots 15 and 45. Zoning is A1 with public water and no public sewer. The applicant is requesting approval to construct a new community center with offices for the parks. Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the department recommends favorable action on this development plan review with the condition that the state DEM permits be secured before building permits have been issued. Or are issued. Clearly, this is a project that's long overdue, and there's been a lot of deliberation of a highly qualified advisory committee headed by Len Bradley with Mike Crowley and others. PAR Engineering is going to make a presentation, so I don't want to preempt what they are going to present, but we worked closely with them, and this is obviously going to be a major improvement, replacing the ski lodge with a new community center. The parking is going to be squared off, and improved landscaping that meets the regulations are going to be installed. So it's going to be a refreshed front gateway to this very important community and natural resource.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Crowley. I'm the Director of the Parks Recreation for the town of Cumberland. I was set with the task from the administration of trying to revamp the Diamond Hill Ski Lodge, the old ski lodge that's down there. And we came to the conclusion about a year or so ago is our best bet was to demolish the building and then erect a new building. So we're in the process. We got the service of Marks Kosher and Associates. Angela Weldon is here tonight, and also Spencer Lyons from Power Engineering. So they'll go over any of the renderings and the drawings and any other questions you have that you might want, or if you have any questions for me for the town, I'm more than willing to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Cumberland Planning Board. So my name is Spencer Lins. I'm with the Park Corporation, the designing engineer for the site civil work on the Diamond Hill development here. So we have adjusted, just starting out with everything, we've adjusted the entrance to the plan, to the site. The curb cuts have been moved northward. Oh yeah, that'd be great, thank you. I was wondering how I was gonna get that done. So yeah, we have one main entrance to the site here on the southern. Oh, on the other side.
In front of the podium.
I'll get this figured out, thank you. All right, so we've adjusted the curb cuts, like I mentioned. There was two existing entrances, one right here and right here, as you can see. And so we've adjusted this one ever so slightly so that it comes in straighter. This has been designed in conjunction with emergency services, fire, police, and those things, so that there's immediate access to the site and easy flow around the site. We also have this one-way access out, as well as adjustable entrance for vendors and stuff for large events in the park. This is also accessible by fire and emergency services, other emergency services, and we've basically made parking even with what it is existing. I think there might be an addition of 1 or 2 spaces on site, but generally there's been no change to the total amount of parking on site. We are offering a bit more handicap access and some parking for a potential pickleball court here on the southern end. In addition to the parking changes and the changes in the overall layout of the site, there are some changes with the stormwater that occurs that we're obviously in the process with RIDEM of improving and getting approved. So the general site, the layout of the site, the way the site slopes is southern towards this isolated wetland. It's not hydraulically connected to any sort of drinking water supply over here, but the site generally drains that way, and that's how the proposed drainage improvements drain the site, and it's generally towards this south central infiltration system down here. So this is a much better improvement to the drainage of the site than currently exists. Right now, everything overland flows across the entire parking lot and directly into the wetlands. Now we're filtering everything through an infiltration system and capturing and infiltrating as much as we possibly can. And obviously that design is currently in the stages of review with RIDEM right now. Currently, there's 2 buildings on site. The existing building, sort of in the central area, it's no longer being heavily used. And this office building that Mike and company work out of for the Parks and Rec Department. So those will be, now everything will be located in this central building, and Angela will go over all of the improvements there. But I think that's all I have to say. Obviously, new utilities for water and gas, and a new septic system to properly dispose of wastewater on site. And I will hand it over to Angela, who will discuss the architectural features of the building.
Keep it.
Just so you know, Angela's from Sakosha and Associates.
Oh, yeah.
And Angela is actually a Cumberland resident also, so she got a vested interest in this piece of property.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, my name is Angela Weldon. I work for Sakosha and Associates. We are the architects designing the new community center building. The building will house a large function room capable of holding many events. It's open concept. It's got lots of windows and doors around 3 of the exterior sides. We incorporated a large folding door that opens into the back patio area, creating an inviting indoor-outdoor space. We have a kitchen, which will have an oven, a stove, refrigerator, everything needed to prep meals for any event that's being held. Or it can be used by any caterer that needs to come in for maybe larger events or so. We were asked to provide exterior toilet rooms for anyone visiting the park. They will be accessible via time clock, so probably from dawn to dusk or whatever the park hours are for a certain particular season. And as Spencer said, we are demolishing the existing Parks and Rec building, so we have incorporated an office area for them. So it's got 2 offices and a lobby area, which is accessible off a 2-story vestibule and separated from the function room. The function room is a post and beam construction. It's got a large stone veneer chimney with a gas fireplace, creating a rustic feel. The exterior of the building is a combination of some cedar blend shingles, PVC trim, and cementitious board and batten, all low maintenance materials. We incorporated some of the interior architectural elements from the function room, the trusses, and we incorporated those on the gable ends, which you'll see in a rendering. And we also incorporated some corbels. It kind of gives it a craftsman style feel, which we felt complemented the newly constructed toilet rooms that were built a couple years ago. So,
Can I just ask, I can't see from here, so I apologize. So you noted that there's bathrooms on the outside of the building. Are there also restrooms
There's-
inside the building?
there is, yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
this is rendering of the overview of the site. So when you pull in, this will be your main entry. You'll kind of have that angle of the building, it'll be the southwest. So we got the parking in the front, we got some parking on the side, and then we have our exit that way. This is a rendering of the front. You can see the shingle siding. We got the trusses that you'll see in an interior rendering. So we got those on the gable ends, which is a feature that is also prominent on the toilet rooms. We got the stone chimney, we got the board and batten around the vestibule tower. So this is a southwest view. This is looking from the northeast elevation of the rear patio. So we have the trusses from on the interior of the function room extending out over the partially covered patio area. And then this is a rendering of the interior of the function space. So you can see the doors, they open up to create a really large opening off to the back patio, which overlooks the park area. Similar view, looking from the other direction, so you can see the nice stone chimney area.
It'd be nice
Any other
if
questions?
that didn't come in our packages with these renderings, so if we could get, can we get reduced copies?
Yes, you can.
Because that would help a lot, because I was trying to figure out the orientation of the building with respect to Diamond Hill Road and of course the park itself. And I'm saying, I kept going back and forth and I said, okay, this must be the location, the way it fits. So that first, I'll call it a photo, that you showed, no, the photo of
The
parking.
site plan?
That's the one, yeah.
Yes.
That gives us a better feeling as to the orientation of the building and the parking area with respect to Diamond Hill Road.
What I'll do is in the morning, I'll send a copy, electronic copy to Director Stevens in the morning, and then he can relay it to the committee.
Other questions, Mr. McDonald?
I see the gas line connection. Am I correct in assuming that the building itself is going to be climate controlled by natural gas?
Yes, it will be.
Okay, thank you.
There's gas out there right now to that.
Yeah, there's an
Steel line.
existing main, and that's what's going to operate the fireplace too as well, I would assume.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Butler?
Just a comment, I think you guys did a really great job. It looks really, really nice. It's a huge improvement to what's there, and with all the other work that Mike and the mayor are doing in the park, it's kudos, it's really good. It's great to see.
Well, I am glad, and it's always been my thought, that it was time to demolish the lodge. I remember, because I used to be on the original Cumberland Fest steering committee, when the state still owned the property, and they were using the lodge to completely store all the garbage barrels and the picnic tables and so on. It was basically a dungeon. And a lot of work has been done to keep it sort of functional. And I'm well aware of I won't even call it the dampness. I mean, I remember the basement was always flooded, and the roof leaked. Even though they fixed the roof, there was another leak someplace else. So I looked at it and I thought to myself, there's no way they're gonna be able to salvage this building without pumping millions of dollars into it. So if you're gonna do that, you might as well just take the whole building down and start from scratch.
That was the conclusion we came to,
Yeah.
exactly what,
It was great to see. The only question I have is, and I noticed on the plan, that there's that small little roadway that goes along, which is now the fence line. How wide is that? And what's the intention for it?
Roadway along the fence line, just point out.
Oh, okay. Well, this old, here's where the old fence was here.
Oh,
So
yes.
This little road here.
Yeah.
It's 10 feet wide.
Yeah.
And what is the purpose for using that?
That is strictly a walkway. It's not to be
walkway,
used.
okay,
It's
all right.
just from the gravel area.
Okay.
uh,
Well,
access.
what comes to mind, since I was involved with Cumberland Fest for over 20 years, and I, the traffic patterns and so on, what we would do is, obviously, anything south of the Midway and so on, and the food court, they would exit out the back. And then any of the parking here, around the lodge, would use what that road, that walkway looks like. And it worked for us at that time, okay? And I'm thinking, I said, well, if it's going to be just a 10-foot wide travel way, it probably won't work very well. And I'm trying to visualize the traffic patterns that we have there now, and then what you're planning. So, yeah, that makes sense. It'd make a nice walkway.
Yeah, the whole traffic plan, I mean, is changing.
Yeah,
That was the original to the back, but the mayor recommended that we put a green area in front of, excuse me, that would be behind the building to access and have some, concerts and different things, small things of that nature there. And, so cars cannot go past that way. So it'll be, we're trying to divide the park up into 3 different areas.
because it was difficult when I was involved with Cumberland Fest, the way the traffic patterns were, and we were still using that as a travel way. We also had pedestrian, and then they're the cars are running into the bed, not literally, but, it was just, keep the pedestrians separate from where the traffic flow is, because
That's the reason for
Yeah,
now.
it was difficult to control the traffic.
If you want to come back to Cumberland Fest, we're still looking for some more volunteers for the future, so.
I think I paid my dues, because not only was I,
There's always a second time around,
I was on the steering committee, but I also chaired it for 5 years.
No, we do appreciate, everything that the
And
the
I'll tell you,
committee's
I
done
enjoyed
before.
every minute of it. But at the time that I left, I had another summer job that kind of conflicted with it. So kudos, looks great. Mr. D'Ambrosio.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what has already been said. This is really exciting. From a plan perspective, something that's really functional and kind of boring, but I didn't see it on the plan, so I'm just wondering. With an event room, there's most likely going to be a need to get caterers and other suppliers, vendors in. Is there a loading dock or a service entrance? And is there also a place for a dumpster enclosure and all that?
So this right here, where this handicap parking is. Sorry, got way ahead of myself. So yes, the loading dock is intended to be right here, and there is access directly from. Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry, everyone on the Zoom at home. Shout out to you guys. Yeah, so the loading dock is intended to be right here. There is direct access in there for vendors bringing stuff into the building.
Did you mention a dumpster? Did you say dumpster? Yeah, the dumpster, we're not sure we're putting the dumpster, we're not putting the dumpster in the view of the building, let's put it that way. So there will be a dumpster somewhere, we just haven't decided where that's gonna go until we get the building done, and then we don't want it to be an eyesore, so there'll be a spot, but not sure yet.
And just as one additional comment here, we have introduced 2 EVs charging stations up here on the northern end of the parking as well. I know that's a very recent development in years. People are looking for EV charging, and we've provided some on site.
Ray would appreciate it. He has an EV.
Oh, cool.
Mr. Bush.
Did you say that the second building is also going to be demolished?
Correct,
And
yes.
what's planned for that area of the site? Is that parking or?
Yes, so the existing Parks and Rec building right now, this is actually all turning into a landscaped area. It's within the buffer zone, so it's going to turn into quite a few plantings in there to, sort of go in line with what RIDEM is looking for the site in order to restore it to some sort of natural vegetation and stuff like that.
agree, it looks like a beautiful design. I think you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We're also looking for action on this tonight, am I correct?
What was that?
Mr. Stevens, we're looking for action on this? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion in regards. Oh, sorry.
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
if anyone on Zoom would like to speak to this matter, just hit the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. Okay, thank you very much.
And again, if there's anyone in the audience wishes to speak, go ahead. Nope.
Okay, I'm going to promote the Betancourts to panel.
Yes, hello?
They're coming in now.
Okay.
Okay, the Betancourts, can you unmute yourself? And you can turn on your camera if you like to.
There you go.
Yep, all right, here I
There you
am.
are.
Sorry. All the plans sound really
For the
great.
record, could you give us your name and your address, please?
Jeffrey Betancourt,
Yep.
287 Pine Swamp Road. My wife is here with me.
We're on the corner of Diamond Hill and Pine Swamp.
Okay, thank you.
Everything sounds beautiful. Sounds super, super, greatly planned. We're concerned about the traffic. I don't know if that's a different
there's-
issue.
If there's been any studies at all as far as the possible rotary in the corner here or something to do with, to that nature, I guess. I don't know. And
Will this cause more, traffic than we already have? Sometimes we can't get out our own driveway and we can't turn into our own driveway because of the, extensive traffic that we're faced with now. There's no light. Not that we'd want a light because we'd probably have a
drag
lineage.
strip going up the hill, if
Yeah,
they put a light there
yeah.
every time somebody leaves, but a rotary would be nice. I'm just wondering if there would be anything
As a result,
moving forward.
yeah, because
as a
of this
result of
community
that,
center, is it going to develop
Would it help that,
more traffic?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the thought on that?
That's a good question. Mr. Modica, has there been any discussion about the traffic, or Mr. Crowley?
I can answer that. I don't believe there's going to be any additional traffic because we're not expanding the parking lot.
Okay.
Okay.
It's what we have there now is going to be the existing parking lot, and actually we're going to lose a few parking spots. So we're not, so I understand your frustration over there because it is, and I've been at multiple events, for many years over there. It does get hectic leaving that property.
Lots of accidents, yeah.
Yeah, and and then
Do
what
that, too.
we've required in the past, and we will require in the future, if it is a large crowd, we would always request a police
Officer.
detail to get the
Good,
traffic in
okay.
and out of that parking lot. But we're not adding any more parking in that spot. So like I said, we
Okay.
will
Okay.
definitely be losing a few spots. So that's
Okay.
going to be the, so you, I don't want
I
to.
mean, it's definitely,
Problem, but it's not
Yeah.
going to be any
oh,
more
it's a
than what it
huge
is today.
improvement, I'm sure. I was just concerned and,
We
you
just
know.
we want to make sure that if in the future, if the state is going to do something, that we would be involved with the intersection, some type of a rotary or whatever they decide to do. I would just want to make sure that we're going to be informed.
it's very close to our driveway, pulling in and out. And they come by here at such rapid rates of speed, it's ridiculous. It's known as I guess, the drag strip and, it's
It
a little,
seems that way
yeah.
anyways,
And
but-
I just hope I don't think it would add to, hopefully it wouldn't add to it. I think it's a great project and
Yeah, if
well
anything's
needed.
ever done, with the road, there's a process that has to take place, and all the abutters would be notified. So if there's going to be any change to
Okay.
the pattern on that road, you would definitely be notified.
Okay.
And I'm sure in the past you've got some notifications on different things that have happened in the park.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I
But
get 'em-
being.
I get them at my office there also because I'm an abutter.
Yeah.
So they do send all those notices. So I know people in the neighborhood I get, and those are
Yeah.
different things there.
Yeah, but being such a large building, you don't foresee like excessive cars like zooming in and out and, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's,
Well, I don't think any
we'd
of
never
the,
oppose
I
it.
don't
It's
think
a
any of
beautiful
those
thing,
events
but-
would be bigger than the festival.
Yeah,
I don't think any of the events in that building would be
Yeah.
bigger than the festival when they
Yeah.
have the festival.
I believe
So
we
I'm sure
capped it
it'll be
around
fine.
150, the building. Is that, Angela?
Yeah.
yeah, so it's good. It's a beautiful
So
thing.
around the 150, I mean, for the occupancy of that building, so I mean,
Okay.
it's not gonna be abundance of people, because that's all we can fit in there. And that is
Yeah.
gonna be, I mean, whatever the fire marshal allows in that building, then that's all you can have. So it's not like you can put
Yep.
another, 500 people in there. You're not allowed to.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's not
Hopefully,
gonna
I mean,
bring more.
we'll try to be good neighbors, and I mean, if you do have any
Oh, of
problems,
course.
always
And
free,
we'll try to be too,
call us
but
at
we
the
just wanted to
office.
ask some questions.
Oh, no, I don't
Just
blame you.
concerned for the traffic pattern here is, it's a little, because there's no light, and sometimes you sit there for so long just to try to pull out of Diamond Hill Road, just to take our turn, and then people behind you are pissed, and then you try to turn into your driveway, it's like, hello, we live here, sorry, you know?
She's already got hit in the back.
Week one of moving here, I was rear-ended, and it was a pretty big accident. Someone was just, thought I was turning down Diamond Hill Road, and I was turning into my driveway. And I guess it was a bad situation, and it just left us with a bad feeling, so. And it's ongoing. Now, to turn into our driveways, we use our four-way flashes. So that's, but that's a different topic, yeah,
All
we're
right.
good.
All right.
Thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you.
No problem,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I noticed that the chambers are fairly empty, but just for the record, I'm going to ask anyone in the audience that has any questions or comments, will you please come forward at this time. I'm assuming that gentleman's with you.
We're good.
I thought so.
Just leave.
But just for the record, to make sure. He's an intern. Yeah, just to make sure we got the i's across the t's.
He better not have anything to say.
Thank you very much. Mr. Butler.
Mr. Chairman, take two. Based on the findings of facts in Mr. Stevens' memo of June 15th, 2023, I'll make a motion that we approve the development plan for the community center and parking lot, and find that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, as well as the 2020-25 Diamond Hill Park Conservation and Management Plan, with the condition that the town secure Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, Stormwater, and OWTS permits prior to building permits being issued.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. D'Ambrosio. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Chair votes yes, the ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
That's what we're here.
And the plaque that you have on the wall, we're trying to put that somewhere in the new building, so the
You know
Cumberland
something?
sign.
I was gonna ask it.
No, we're definitely gonna, incorporate that somewhere into the building there, so.
Just truly, if you notice, my name's on there.
Oh, no, yeah, I know everybody's name that's on there.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 7, we did 8 and 9. So, item number 10, public hearing, community development block grant, CDBG, affordable housing application program year 2022, and I believe it's Mr. Modica.
I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually we did have a first hearing last month. This is our second first hearing. That first hearing did count, but this one's going to count even more because there's other things that I'm required to say. So this year, there's $5.4 million statewide available for proposed community development and housing activities, including grant and program income. The money can be used for a range of activities that includes improved housing opportunities for low and moderate income families and individuals, employment opportunities for low and mod income families and individuals, as well as provisions for community infrastructure, facilities, and services that principally benefit low mod populations. In the past, the town has used CDBG funds to renovate the senior center, upgrade the Valley Falls bus shelter, provide funds to Community Care Alliance that provides English language instruction, and last year, the adaptive reuse of the Amaral building. We've also used grant funds on a project-by-project basis for home improvements, such as roof replacement, lead paint removal, and other projects addressing health and safety issues. So we estimate that with the exception of administration and advertising costs, at least 80% of the grant funds will be used to benefit low and moderate income households. So this purpose of this meeting is to get any feedback from the board or from the public.
Anyone have comments, questions? Hearing none, is there anyone, the audience is empty for the record. There is no one in the audience. Mr. Moger, is anybody in the queue?
Does anyone on Zoom would like to speak to the community development block application? You can click the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen, and we'll let you We do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I guess we can go to item 11.
The next CDBG.
Yep. Public hearing, community development block grant, CDBG, competitive grant application program, year 2022, recommendations to town council, adaptive reuse of Amaroff Building 16 Mill Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is now our second public hearing, and this is where the planning board determines whether the grant projects that we're requesting are consistent with the comprehensive plan, and that gets forwarded to the town council, who has to approve our grant application. So we have three applications this year. The first is the Amaral building. It's the little two-story brick building on Mill Street, just right next to Town Hall. And we're going to adaptive reuse it as the Office of Community-Based Health and Outreach. We're going to partner with EMS to provide health screenings, the Rhode Island Food Pantry, Blackstone Valley Advocacy Center, and other organizations to provide services like home heating assistance, domestic violence prevention, and veteran services. And these groups are going to be using the building on a rotating basis. So every week, every month, there will be different groups that will be in the building at different times. Last year, we received $1 million in community development block grant funds, and we've allocated $625,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds. Over the past few months, the building committee has been working with Northeast Collaborative Architects on the conceptual design, and the committee selected alternative D4, which was in your packet, as the preliminary preferred alternative. This places all the new elements, stairs, elevator, and bathrooms at the rear of the building on the exterior, and this leaves the interior of the historic building essentially intact. It also keeps all the new elements out of public view. The most recent cost estimate is still upwards of $2 million, but it does leave us with a shortfall. So we are asking for the grant for an additional $500,000 to cover the overall costs. The second application is for the Long Barn at Franklin Farm to address food insecurity. Within the barn, the folks at Franklin Farm sort, pack, and distribute over 35,000 pounds of produce every year. That directly benefits about 8,000 low and moderate income households. And they distribute food not only in Cumberland, but Central Falls, Providence, Lincoln, North Providence, and North Smithfield. They partner with the Rhode Island Community Food Bank, provide food to local soup kitchens and food pantries, including Pawtucket Soup Kitchen, Salvation Army of Pawtucket, and Community Care Alliance. So the grant money is going to be used to make essential repairs to keep the barn functional. We're going to replace the roof, stabilize the foundation, and replace and repair other deteriorated structural elements. And again, we're requesting $500,000 for that project. The final project is a learning program with Community Care Alliance. We've teamed with them for many years on CDBG grants. They provide GED classes and English language instruction to about 15 to 20 unemployed or underemployed adults every year. So in the memorandum that we provided to the board, we outlined why we think these projects are consistent with the comprehensive plan. And we're hoping for a positive vote.
Comments or questions from the board? Mr. Modica, the Emerald Building, as far as the use of it, when people come, where are they going to park?
There's not a whole lot of parking.
Yeah.
So there's currently five spaces behind that building, right, that the town uses. We're probably going to lose 2 from the addition. But we are going to take these spots that are on Mill Street, the 5 spaces kind of at the corner of Mill and Broad, where town employees currently park.
Okay,
So we're going to swap those out
all right, so,
and get some back.
I mean, I could also see if need be, because there is access to this, from this parking lot here, the main parking
And
lot.
if there is this, of course.
Right, because I guess there's a stairway that goes up and around, so.
Right,
But you're not
exactly.
anticipating a lot of,
I don't think it's going to be very busy.
right,
I think when we do, there'll probably be evening classes,
Mhm.
which, you know, everyone can use this parking lot, which would be easier. But we don't know. We don't know how many groups, how often, you know, what is specifically what the demand is going to be.
anyone else have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we forward a recommendation to the town council that the Emerald Building adaptive
We
reuse.
still need to, is there anybody in the queue?
Oh, thank you. Okay, anyone left in the queue, if you have a comment regarding current matter regarding the CDBG application, please click the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. And we do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And for the record, there is no one in the chambers either. So, Mr. Butler?
Make a motion that we forward a recommendation to the town council that the Emerald Building adaptive reuse, the Franklin Farm Long Barn Rehabilitation, and the Community Care Alliance's Adult Literacy Program are all consistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan as outlined in Mr. Modica's memo of June 22nd, 2023.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? I'm going to say Mr. Bush and again, Mr. McDonald. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Modica. Job well done. Mr. Stevens, we go back up to item number 3, Director's Report, newly enacted land use statutes.
For the record, we just put the air conditioning on to fortify you for this item.
Thank you.
There'll be a test on Thursday. I just provided you a handout. Ken, did you get one? No, there's another one. Does anybody, you all have one now? So the overview is that the General Assembly enacted a number of bills, a series that the speaker had put out there that had to do with housing, land development, and so this was a process where it was predetermined that most, if not all, these bills were likely to be enacted. And there is a significant housing shortage in Rhode Island and throughout the country. And so the American Planning Association, the League of Cities and Towns participated in working with staff for the speaker and the Senate Majority Leader in order to try and amend or let's just say have a dialogue so that amendments before it was enacted could be accommodated, and to a large degree some of the more items that cause some stress for the planning community and the municipal community were resolved. At the same time, I think the headline is that there are going, the municipalities are going to have to enact ordinance, land use development regulations, and checklist amendments, a significant amount to come into conformance with these new statutes. There's a statutes of the package of 14. The ones that have most notable changes are the comprehensive plan, zoning enabling, low and moderate income housing, inclusionary zoning, and then the land development acts, land development review. So what we've done here is we want to give you an overview. We don't have an extensive conversation tonight. We're all trying to come to grips with the impact and the process by which we have to follow to come to in conformance with the new acts, with one exception being the Comprehensive Plan Act, which has to be accommodated by March of next year. These other acts have to be accommodated by the end of this year. So the state has offered to municipalities through Rhode Island Housing a technical assistance grant of $100,000. They have a number of pre-qualified firms, and the town of Cumberland, along with Lincoln and Coventry, actually jumped right in and requested that we be pre-qualified, and we are pre-qualified. Since that happened, the state has done a pivot, and at least what they're saying now is that they're going to get their own consultant to put out model ordinances, regulations, and checklists, and all this other stuff. So we're having a hard time appreciating how that can be helpful. I mean, if each municipality is on their own path and making progress where the state concurrently is coming up with models, then it's going to put those who haven't already acquired the service at a disadvantage time-wise. But this will be an exciting 6 months. And so we have Glenn and Kelly have followed this pretty closely, as have I. What I wanted to do tonight is roll out just the treetops on each of these 4 or 5 acts that you're going to be having to study and respond to as the staff comes forward to the planning board, the zoning board, and the town council, so that they can appreciate the changes that are going to take place in procedures, definitions, goals and objectives, and statutory requirements. So with that said, what I'd like to do is just hit each one individually. I'm going with the easiest to comprehend first, and then maybe we can have Q's and A's on that, and then move on to the next one, and hopefully do this in maybe 20 minutes. The first is for comprehensive plans. So the town's comprehensive plan housing element must now include specific goals, implementation actions, and timeframes for developing of low, moderate income housing. By the January 1st, 2025, the zoning map must comply with future land use map, and that shall govern all municipal land use decisions. And now there's a new thing, the comprehensive plan implementation element shall contain a concise strategic plan, which details actions, and it should be reviewed annually by the municipality. I think I'd argue that our 2016 plan has a pretty clear implementation element, and also I think a pretty strong and comprehensive housing element. So I think that we should be able to, that we should be in a good position there. And that But we'll have to do an annual report, an annual implementation report. So be it. Any questions? Any comments? No comments. One question.
Anything specific as far as the requirements for the number of units, the lot size, that type of thing? Is that just general or?
I'm just giving you the treetops.
Yeah, okay,
I'm just giving you the treetops tonight. We will get into the details.
all right.
Harry?
Mr. Stevens, who develops the future land use map?
Well,
We do. Okay.
The future land use map is a part of the comprehensive plan, and you specifically by statute are required to develop the comprehensive plan. But obviously, you work with consultants and the planning staff.
yeah, that's why we think it's so important to have our own consultant. And the firm that we've picked has a planner who was at the State House almost every day negotiating on this. So that person is very conversant on all the issues and all the nuances. Okay? Zoning enabling. This allows lots substandard in area to have reduced dimension requirements in proportion to the degree of nonconformity. Requires specific and objective special use permit criteria. Lot mergers cannot be required of a substandard lot that has an area equal to 2 or greater than 50% of the lots within 200 feet, and requires provision for modifications for dimensional variances of 15% or less, but allows use of modification for variances up to 25%, et cetera. Any questions? Any comments? No comments.
Paragraph 1 is very difficult to understand for this old man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the two items that I take away is for substandard lots, we know there are quite a few. If there's a plethora of them, then within 200 feet, then they're going to be allowed by right.
And the town doesn't have the merger provision anyway, so this really doesn't apply in Cumberland. This is for towns that have merger provisions, so it kind of supersedes, you know what that means, right? If your lot is substandard, it combines with the next lot as long as they're in common ownership. But this would kind of supersede that by saying if the area all has the same size lots, and I'm generalizing, but then they wouldn't merge. There's also, I think, one of the standards for dimensional variances is going away, which is least relief necessary, right? So that's going away. Which you don't see, but you will, because he's going to talk about unified development soon.
The special use permit criteria, that's going to, I think we're anticipating that we're going to have to go through the entire use table and make more specific criteria for these special use.
Which, I mean, again, that should have always been the case, because you have very general, essentially it's that the use is not inimical to the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. Well, you get an expert up here that says that, and but I always take the example of a drive-through. The special use criteria would be something like adequate access to the site, enough queuing spaces on site for the drive-through so that people aren't out on the street. The noise level of the monitor has to be at a certain decibel, or it needs to be far enough away from neighbors. Those are the types of criteria that you would have, so that it's kind of a checkbox as you or the zoning board reviews an application. And if they meet those criteria, then they get their special use permit. That's the way it's always intended to be, but this law makes it required so that if you don't have that specific criteria, then the special use permit is essentially allowed by right, or the use is allowed by right.
Okay, we're all good with that? Low and moderate income housing. Master plan phase is limited and the preliminary plan decision required within 90 days. Meeting local housing needs is equivalent to 20% of approved housing units on 1 calendar year as LMI units. Affects ability to limit for-profit developments to 1%. Changes comprehensive permit procedures to mandate specific density bonuses based on the percentage of LMI units in the development, and puts a limit on municipalities' ability to require parking, restrict the number of bedrooms per unit, or apply moratoriums for permit units.
So I think I read, isn't there like a stamp, like you can only require one parking space for like a 3-bedroom. You can have a 3-bedroom unit, but as long as they have one parking space for those 3 bedrooms, you can't require 3 parking spaces. Did I read that right?
You may have.
It's up to 2 bedrooms. I think it says no more than 1 parking space per unit can be required per unit, up to including 2-bedroom units. So I think more than 1 can be required for 3.
I think this is one of the ones that's going to drive. This is going to be like the steep slopes. This is going to be one of the ones that just drives people absolutely nuts. It is what it is, but
Yeah.
And I understand the rationale, but I think this is the one that's you folks are going to get the most flack for.
Yeah, there's going to be more administrative discretion, or frankly, administration staff have to make decisions. And we also feel that the smaller municipalities, the more rural, that don't have staff capacity, are just going to be in a tough position. And there'll be more change that'll be more seen. We'll get into that couple down. Inclusionary zoning.
Mr.
If
Chair,
the,
Ms. Stevens, I'm sorry, quick thing. My issue is with restricting the number of bedrooms per unit, because that computes to the number of children in the schools, and that, there's the overcrowding, and can be a big burden on the town if we develop 200 units in and hope with 3 bedrooms each, as opposed to 1. How do you handle that? I know we can't handle it tonight, but that's just an issue I would bring up. Maybe we have no say over it now, since the state says we can't do anything.
we'll see over the next 6 months.
I mean, you can't control the size of your population to meet the schools. How do we do that?
It's also market-driven. I think that developers are proposing 1 and 2 bedrooms because that's what the market is requiring right now. It's not because they want to make towns happy. It's because the market drives that type of unit. So, hopefully, not hopefully, we don't discriminate against children, so.
Inclusionary zoning. If the town enacts inclusionary zoning, I think we've been talking about it. We may move forward with this as part of the consultant's work. It remains optional, but 25% of the units must be affordable up from 10%, and for a minimum of 30 years. The staff has been pushing for 99 years. Local control when inclusionary zoning applies, but must apply at or above 10 units. Mandates density bonuses of 2 market rate units per affordable unit provided, and mandated reduction in lot area requirements to accommodate the density bonus, and requires the allocation of all in fee in lieu funds within 3 years. Okay, now here's the big one, or the one that has the most impact in terms of process. Subdivisions land development review. So development plan review, which we did tonight, is going to be permitted if change of use with no extensive construction improvements, adaptive reuse of a commercial zone with no extensive exterior construction, adaptive reuse in a residential zone less than 9 units, a development in a designated urban or growth center, or development in a historic district. Under Unified Development Review, the planning board may grant relief from the zoning ordinance, which is something I think Kelly and Glenn and I were going to be recommending to you that the town do anyway. That way, they don't have to go over to the zoning board to get relief. The new statute allows the town to determine thresholds for administrative review or formal review by the planning board, and local regulation ordinance shall provide for specific categories of projects that may review and approve an application administratively, as well for those required to be heard by the planning board or designated permitting authority. Any questions? Oh, and on that, the planning department may waive design standards or the requirement for DPR for a change of use if there's no extensive construction. Excuse me. So for minor land development, this is kind of technical and we don't have to get into the weeds, but they'll be processed by staff if they meet applicable. Oh, thank you. Isn't he great? Well, this will be processed by staff if they meet applicable zoning standards. It will now have the following thresholds. You can read the thresholds, I don't have to read them. For major subdivisions, it increases the minimum number from 6 to 10. Public hearings will occur at the master plan stage, not the preliminary plan stage, and unified development review is required. For minor subdivisions, applications will bypass the planning board and be processed administratively by town staff if they meet applicable zoning standards. If applications require relief, a preliminary plan will be reviewed and approved by the planning board at a public hearing. And increases the maximum number for minor subdivisions from 5 to 9. I think that's it. That's correct.
So, like in the case of a preliminary plan, if there are significant changes after that, they would typically have to come back for reapproval. But in this case, it's preliminarily, for the preliminary step, it's being done administratively. Is that correct? So,
Yeah, so
would you have the ability, if it changed enough when it came to preliminary based on what it was at master when it was approved by us?
if it's not consistent with the master plan, then it's not going to get approved for preliminary.
Okay.
And when you say administratively, I mean, in a way, if a staff is very conservative and sees issues, they don't have to approve it, or they could take a conservative approach or a liberal approach. It gives the administrative staff a fair amount of latitude, but it expedites the process, and the public doesn't have that access, or loses some access, and you lose your authority over that. It's also been argued, and I've attended a couple of the land use commission meetings, is that But, you know that you have, I've heard Harry say this and others, you shrug your shoulders to the people and say, we have to approve it because it's consistent with the statutes and ordinances. So I think that's where the Land Use Commission and the General Assembly thought, well, then what's the point? Do it at master plan. Have your discussion and
And I
public
have to
input.
say, most times at master plan, we say to the neighbors, well, if we don't change it at master plan, changes very rarely happen at preliminary plan. So I don't agree with taking public input out of it, but I see the rationale behind it, that if preliminary plan is consistent with master plan, nothing's really going to change. And the neighbors bring up the same issues they did during preliminary, and it's just not, once you get past that master plan stage,
It's all technical, right?
yeah,
Like,
it's,
that's what I always say is preliminary plan is the heavy engineering. I mean, that's really, you're going to be relying on their experts, any peer review that you require, your town staff. But if it's stormwater drainage, I mean, that's done by experts, not by lay people. The only one that I can see as an issue, and we'll have to kind of dig into this, is, we often talk about traffic and whether that should be reviewed at master plan or preliminary plan. We've taken the position that it's a neighborhood impact, which is a master plan type of issue. But we'll definitely have to kind of dig into that as to what really belongs at master plan. Because again, once you get the master plan approval, you really should only be talking about very technical utilities and things of an expert nature.
I just have, it's a comment. In the memo, in the land development review, multiple times, there's a threshold mention of no extensive construction. And it's a very nebulous term, what's extensive?
Can you speak up, Harry?
It's multiple times in the section, there's the phrase, a threshold, no extensive construction improvements. And I'm just saying that, well, I'm thinking, does the town want to establish somehow what extensive means? Because I'm assuming that language is in the statute. And I don't know how you define it. So I don't know how you, again, I don't know how you can put a threshold on what extensive is, but it's kind of troubling.
Well, wouldn't extensive mean major engineering or major engineering changes?
It is a very subjective term. I think that's one of those things that we have to dig into and either define it ourselves or figure out what it really means. It's very subjective. I don't like that term, but I haven't dug into these enough to be able to give a good answer on that.
Can I just make an observation? The three of you are pros, and I'm just wondering if other planners, planning directors, community solicitors, if there might be meetings as time goes on, because this is significant stuff. And the idea of consulting, putting your heads together, I'm not suggesting you do it, but I just wonder, because this is going to change the landscape a lot.
Right. So this was developed by a land use attorney with a lot of input from a land use commission of, what, about 12 people? I'm guessing it's about
16.
12 people.
Yeah.
In addition, I know, as Jonathan mentioned, the president of the APA, and I'm sure other planners, gave a lot of input, met individually with the people drafting this legislation, as well as the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns. So there was a lot of discussion about this. There's certainly, I think everyone acknowledges that there's some things that certain municipalities might not prefer, but this is intended to be a way to provide relief to developers, specifically developing housing. That's the intention.
The bill was a lot worse when it started. So this is actually,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you.
the original bill that came out many months ago was a lot worse than what was finally passed. So
Okay.
this is better.
I mean, Mr. Butler touched upon it, parking spaces. That's going to come up with some of this stuff where you're going to have neighbors fighting over parking spaces potentially because of the density of development that this would mean over the next several years.
Yeah, so there was a land use commission, but also, I mean, the speaker's a land use attorney. I was at the announcement when they rolled out all these bills. The League of Cities and Towns embraced it, saying not unconditionally, but said we recognize the need. We support these bills in concept, and we look forward to working with you. And then there was just 3 months of intensive, I mean, these came out, I think, in the middle of March, and they were enacted at the end of June. So along with everything else that happened up at the State House, and there was a lot. And so it's a very aggressive schedule. And I think the best we felt we could do was grab this consultant opportunity, regardless of what other municipalities were doing. And again, the individual that we hope to work with that was there advocating for modifications and reasonable standards, and is extremely conversant. So I think Cumberland, if it goes the way we hope, will be well represented in terms of technical work. And we have, I think, council and the zoning board and you have to, we'll do our best to give you our guidance and the professional support and the expertise of the consultant in order to try and come up with the definitions and whatever latitude the town has to make these provisions as valuable to the town's needs as possible.
Stevens, are these now set in stone, or is there a 6-month, did you mention, period where
The laws are, they're enacted.
they're enacted?
So what they mandate that the towns, all the municipalities have to have their ordinances and regulations and standards and everything all come into conformance.
See, again, coming back to the public meetings, as someone who got involved in the planning board because I was opposed to a subdivision, I know what you go through, and I know when you come to your very first meeting as a resident, and you hear a lot of things going on, you have a lot of questions, you get some answers, you go away, you talk to your neighbors, and you have a lot of questions. But now they're saying, when you come back to the next meeting, you're not allowed to ask any questions anymore. The first time around, if you don't think of what might go wrong with this, you have no say anymore. And I know you didn't make this law yourself.
Well,
I totally disagree with that.
Well, to be clear, this would pertain to major developments that conformed with the zoning. Those that don't conform with the zoning still goes through the two-step process.
So it would be something that has no variances and no.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's a little better.
Yes.
Makes me feel a little better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not jump off the cliff yet.
No, I'm ready to jump off the cliff. And again, the only other thing I have an issue is having no say over how many 3-bedroom apartments you can put someplace when overcrowding in schools is a problem. And we're not against children, but somewhere down the road you got to build another school, and that's something that you have to keep in mind and plan for. So
Certainly building a lot of, rehabbing a lot of schools, that's for sure.
yeah, well, I don't know, how do you control that? We have no control over it now then, right? Student population?
I would say, though, that you don't have any control over that today either. You can't, your site development review, you're not what happens on the inside. So that's not something that you can control even today.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, for the record, thank Mr. Stevens and Mr. Modica for this 4-page primer. It helped. Thank you.
No more questions or comments? Okay. So we've satisfied everything here. So I'll entertain a motion to, oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Is there any public comment? Anybody in the queue? Nobody in the queue. So there is nobody in the audience and nobody in the queue.
Croatia. She's from Croatia.
Croatia, yeah. That's right, because she's, yeah, that's right. And Roy's not, unless he comes in now. Motion by Mr. Butler to adjourn, and seconded by the entire board. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it.